we're going to look at the meaning of a fraction, part 2. In part 1, we were talking about circles, fractions of a circle. Let's start applying fractions to things that are not circles. So to review, though, in the meaning of a fraction, part 1, and this is really all about the meaning of a fraction. The last fraction we looked at was 3/4. We talked about the name of the bottom, which is denominator, D for down, and the top name was numerator. Numerator is the name of the top number, denominator, the name of the bottom number. What was more important, though, is what do they mean? That's the most important thing. We learned from part 1 that the bottom number always tells me the number of equal parts in one whole. And the top number we learned means the number of, and again they're equal, I don't always say that, but they are, the number of equal parts. I said that we're talking about the number of equal parts we have, could even be the number of equal parts we don't have. But let's just say the number of equal parts that we are talking about. Now, that screen, what you've got in front of you there, looks like a simple idea, but that is the foundation for understanding so much of fractions. What is the meaning of the bottom? The number of equal parts inside one whole. What's the meaning of the top? The number of equal parts that we're talking about. That right there is the foundation of so much of fraction learning. So, in the past video, we applied this to a discussion about circles, pizzas and pies. Now let's talk about rectangles. Let's chocolate bars or something we can talk about here. So there's a whole chocolate bar, right? So I'm using green to mark the whole chocolate bar. That is, let's go back to green again. This is one whole. Because remember, to figure out the bottom number of a fraction, I've got to know what is the whole and how many parts is the whole thing broken into. So there's my whole. Now, we're going to break this thing up. Because if I have one whole, if I got the whole thing, I don't even need fractions. Fractions are all for talking about parts of a whole. So let's take this whole and imagine something like a Kit Kat bar or something. We're going to say when we took the wrapper off, we saw that there were marks where I could break this thing into 4 parts. And let's say it's a friend and myself. Well, before we go there, let's figure out how we can write down what we know so far. So a fraction, remember, it's got top and a bottom. The bottom tells me how many pieces to make one whole. Well, if I look inside that chocolate bar, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces to make a whole. So I know the bottom number has to be 4 because the bottom is how many pieces it takes to make one whole. Now, let's talk about how many we want. So let's say that there are 2 of us. So I get 2 slices and my friend gets 2 slices. So I can ask this question: what fraction of the chocolate bar do I get? Well, bottom number is 4. We already figured that out. The top number is how many pieces am I getting? How many am I talking about here? Well, I'm talking about the amount that I'm getting. I'm getting 2 slices out of the 4, 2 pieces out of the 4. So there's the fraction of the chocolate bar that I get. I get 2 out of the 4 pieces in the whole chocolate bar. Top again is the number of pieces that we are talking about. And in this case, we're talking about how many do I get. And the bottom is the number of, and again, equal. This always means equal, although I will leave that out, but that's not on purpose. Number of equal parts in one whole. All right, let's change this up. Let's imagine that we have, let's go with another rectangle. But this is a much bigger thing now. This is one of those great big supersized chocolate bars. And I'm going to imagine that this thing is cut not just into two. I've just now cut it into two parts, but I'm going to cut each half in half. Now I've cut it into 4 parts. 4 parts we know already. If I've got 4 parts, we're talking quarters. Always has a 4 on the bottom. But I'm going to cut each quarter in half. Now, how many parts do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. And remember, the outside rectangle is 1 whole. So, to write my fraction, I start by saying, how many parts does it take to make 1 whole? Well, now it takes 8 parts to make 1 whole, because the whole rectangle is broken into 8 parts. How many are we talking about? Well, let's imagine that we have, let's say I'm getting 1 of those. I'm getting 1 out of the 8 pieces. So here's a question. What fraction of the chocolate bar am I getting? Well, 8 parts to make the whole, so 8 is the bottom number. How many am I talking about? I'm talking about what I'm getting. I'm getting 1. So 1/8 is the amount that I am getting. 1/8 of the chocolate bar. Now let's take that same chocolate bar, again, break it into 8 parts, and the easiest way to do that for me is to do as I did before. First into halves, then into quarters, then into eighths. So we've again got 8 pieces to make the whole chocolate bar. So I know without going any further, bottom number is 8. No matter what I'm talking about, no matter how many of this or how much of this chocolate bar I'm eating, bottom number will always be 8 because 8 pieces make a whole. Now, I said earlier, I got piece number 8. I got 1/8. So when we ask the question, how much of the chocolate bar did I get? I got 1 slice, or 1 part out of 8. So I got 1/8 of the chocolate bar. I'm going to change the question now to how much of the chocolate bar did I not get? Well, I did not get those 7 pieces. So remember again, fraction, bottom number, how many to make 1 whole. Top is how much am I talking about? I'm talking about what I did not get. I did not get 7. So in this case, 7/8 is what I did not get.